April 25th, 2026, Uranus moves into Gemini. Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to make an updated new reflections video about the long-running transit of Uranus in Taurus. I hope you're all doing well. It was about time to come back on and make a new video for this, as I have not spoken about Uranus in Taurus as a concept alone since 2018. I will link my original Uranus in Taurus video below if you want to listen to an ancient video from this transit. Oh my gosh, that feels like another world, doesn't it? The year 2018. Also in the description box, I'm going to link below the exact dates of this transit, as yes, we will be getting acquainted with Uranus in Gemini as early as July 2025, where it will be there from July until November 2025, where we'll get a similar experience to what we've had with Pluto in Aquarius and Capricorn, except its retrograde cycles will not go for quite so long. We'll get the one there and then it will finally go into Gemini completely on April 25th, 2026. So yes, we have about a year and a half here to really enter into the final meanings, the final chapters of Uranus and Taurus as a transit, which I bet if you're here listening to this video on YouTube, you are someone who Uranus in Taurus really affects, as people who either create content on social media or listen to or watch content on social media are very much within the energy of Uranus and Taurus. So in this video, everyone, I'm going to go over some topics that I have drawn up in an outline. I'm going to revisit some of the topics from the 2018 video and sort of bring some new thoughts into this video about how things have changed, as they've really changed since 2018. Yes, and thank you all so much to those of you who are in the live premiere. Thank you so much for any super chats. Also, thank you for just coming and visiting regardless. Every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I am hosting these live premieres on YouTube. And if you don't get the chance to attend them, definitely check out my Patreon page below, where you can find the reflection streams, and you can find T-chats, you can find these videos. Okay, so I will link that below. There are free trials over there. And yes, after a bit of Uranus and Taurus speaking, let's talk even more about Uranus and Taurus. So where do I want to begin? I'm just looking at my outline here. First off, okay, I just need to really insert the fact that there's kind of like a page break. Okay, what I would call a certain energetic page break. And it's why I wanted to come on and make this video today, because Uranus and Taurus as an energy is entering into its final chapter. So most of the chapters that Uranus and Taurus have brought about have ended, and we are in the final window of it, which means that a lot of the constructs in our life, the jobs we've been working, the anything relating to the sign of Taurus in our life, okay, our earned income, our relationships, our romantic relationships, but also our kinship relationships, okay, also ruled by the sign of Taurus, is food, okay, what we're eating, our diet, also the neck, all right, and everything relating to the neck, so like the muscles of the neck, the voice, the thyroid, all of the anatomy of the neck, also having been imbued with the energy of Uranus over these last few years, and now finalizing there. Okay, so the throat chakra having been probably the most activated chakra over this last 7-8 year time period, and that also really yielding a certain result, or also the theme of communication, what we're voicing, what we're using our voice to say, okay, how we're also regulating the hormones of the body, right, with the thyroid, with the pituitary gland, all of these being connected to the sign of Taurus as well, and all of these maybe having, obviously we've seen like a growth in hormonal disruption, hypothyroidism, okay, thyroid disorders have all been more prevalent during this transit, which makes sense, right, because Uranus can be a disruptor, and it can also be something that just changes the status quo, or changes or makes more volatile some type of repetitive system. So yes, we have that at a body level, but we also have certain other regulatory functions of society, and also, yes, of the nervous system, of the body, also of, I would say, like the Earth's growth cycles, okay? So agriculture, the way that the Earth grows plants, food, all of those kinds of things have been made volatile, destabilized, but also a lot of innovation and changes have been happening throughout this time. And now, yes, November 2024, with the sun coming to oppose Uranus in the sign of Scorpio, we're going to get a final illumination of the meaning of this transit. And we are also going to step in, okay, kind of like a final boss battle, kind of like, you know, that last gauntlet in a major RPG or something. It's not really like that, but it's kind of like that if you wanted to think poetically about this time. We're going to step into the most difficult part of this transit, you all, yet also the part that has the most to offer and the part that really moves the story or really moves the needle of what this entire transit has represented. So I want to talk about social media. I want to talk about health. I want to talk about love and finance. And we'll just go through each of these categories and hopefully come out with a conclusion. Which I'm so excited to be talking about this because I just feel such a influx of wonderful, clear communication and psychic energy. So, yeah, we're on YouTube. We're on a social media platform right now. So let's talk about social media. So what I have written down with Uranus and Taurus and the new reflections that I'm getting on it is social media as a quote-unquote daily bread construct. Okay? So over this period of time, really starting in 2018, we've seen social media through what happened even before 2020, but compounded by 2020 and the ensuing years. We've seen social media become a sort of consumption infrastructure, I feel. We've seen also a major monetization of social media, and we've seen that devices like the smartphone or your laptop or your tablet now are a central hub for your shopping, okay? Now is a lot of how consumption happens, okay? And then also the spaces, this is something people don't think about, the spaces in which they use their devices, okay? So the house you live in, or the spaces, the rooms that you use technology more in, the car, okay? Or even the public places that you might be on your smartphone in. All of these things have been injected with a Uranian energy and forced into a volatile economic structure. More than we realize at a quantum level, the technology component of our consumption grid and lifestyles have inflated the monetary system and drove up the cost of housing. So Uranus is also, and we'll talk about this in the finance section of the video, Uranus and Taurus has been very connected to the theme of inflation, to higher prices, and also to people's perceived value, as a lot of prices and value deals with what people think things are worth, which is very influenced by social media and by technology. So moving into this last phase of Uranus and Taurus, there is an importance on setting boundaries and meaningful grids into your life on how you want to relate to technology. Okay, how many hours a day do you want to be on the screen? This is a great time for like screen timers, okay? This is also a wonderful time to like measure how many hours a day am I listening to YouTube? How, especially even more than listening, because listening is kind of like not, it could be good or bad. It depends on what one is listening to. But specifically the doom scrolling thing, okay? That would be something that we need to really see here, because I don't think that like, even like regardless of how positive the content is on, you know, TikTok or Shorts or Instagram Reels, I feel it to be quite a negative thing for people's brain health. You know, YouTube is kind of like the last vestige of potential, I feel, for social media, and it's why I'm a YouTuber. It's why all of my content revolves around the platform of YouTube, despite the difficulties that have been on this platform lately, is because there's still a chance to create like long form content that can be digested in a meaningful way and can be used in a more deliberate way. You know, when you're watching long form content, you have more of a choice. Like, okay, I'm going to listen to this while I'm doing chores in my house. Or I'm going to pause this video. Or I'm going to go to the chapter of this video that has meaning to me. And there's more of an ability to personally regulate that in a deliberate way. Also, I feel that the algorithm on YouTube is more healthy and more personable to people. However, on these short form content providers, the algorithm I think is quite damaging, and I think that it provides a lot of very sensational things that have a really negative impact on people's psyche. So this has come into play during the latter half of the Uranus and Taurus transit, the short form content rush, okay? And I feel that it's one of the expressions of debilitated Uranus. Don't forget, Uranus is debilitated in the sign of Taurus. So from 2018 to 2026, we're seeing negative examples of economy, currency, prices, consumption, and technology. Okay, those are all, the sort of combination of Uranus and Taurus energy. So my advice during this chapter, this final chapter of Uranus and Taurus, would be to really rein yourself in and set guidelines. Do not be an unconscious consumer. Okay, unconscious consumption will be why people can't afford houses. Unconscious consumption will be why people can't save money. Unconscious consumption will also be why people are kind of confused and unsure of like what exactly it is that they're doing in their lives, because that's like one of the main elements of this general period of time is kind of like a confusion, right? We have Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, which sextile Uranus, which means that confusion and sort of overly vague, sort of inchoate feelings about our life path can naturally, easily flow into the physical material with that sextile. So that's starting to really channel through Uranus and Taurus. And then also that would mean that there's a natural feedback loop between this technology issue as well as the sort of inchoate, confusing life path problem. So I think they're compounding each other. I think that technology and consumption are kind of like compounding a generally kind of confused and mentally scrambled, almost overloaded hard drive for the brain. Now the brain is not a computer. It is a computer, but we can't, think of it in the way that we think of like a normal computer. But I would say with late Uranus and Taurus, I could say that there could be like an overloaded mind or an overloaded psyche, like too much data, too much random sequences, too much like a sort of uninterpretable, randomized kind of information that may be responsible for why people are struggling to like really be precise in their lives. So it's going to really be on us to draw our own boundaries. And this is also, reaffirmed again with Saturn transiting Pisces right now, where it's really important to create our own boundaries because they're not going to exist by default. We have other transits right now, and I made a video about my new reflections on Saturn and Pisces, which I will link below. We'll see a natural eroding of boundaries during this time, or a natural lack of boundaries, which means that it's really on us to create them. This could also have something to do with the way that algorithms and scrolling and social media functions at a systemic level right now. It's almost like it erodes boundaries, or like our boundary between ourselves and our device is not so great. So consider this during this time, as I feel that the social media construct is becoming as kind of invaluable to people as their daily meals, right? So this section of the video is called Social Media as a Daily Bread Construct, which is something I'm going to have to go more into in the Global Dynamics video this year, which will be live premiering in December. Hit the subscribe button below and turn on the bell notifications to get notified when that goes up. So the point of this in the context of Uranus and Taurus is that appropriate? Is it appropriate for social media to be a daily bread kind of construct? Well, not really, because it's not, without food, people starve to death, but without social media, I don't know what would happen. Like, do we even remember what life was like before then? Do we even have the strength to exist in a paradigm like that now? I don't know. But it could be good for some people here to like really go on social media diets. I should probably be careful about talking about things like that, because I know it's in the interest of social media platforms to keep that going. At least maybe choosing content like this content that keeps us thinking about it might be better here. So yeah, that could also be a really kind of a moderate stance on this issue, would be like choosing your content wisely, making sure that the content that you're listening to is growing your brain, because it can. Content can absolutely be positive and healthy. And, there are things you can listen to that bring more into your life. Or there are things you can watch that do that. But there are also things that can destroy and take away. So it's important to know which is which. And it's important to not mindlessly or unconsciously just scroll through it, I think. This also kind of branches off into like jobs, virtual employment, okay, online businesses, online identities, virtual consumption, and the different, as I already said, the different economic purposing of the home. I already touched on that a bit. But Uranus and Taurus is all about these things, you guys. So jobs that are virtual, online businesses, okay, content creation businesses, and any of the economic constructs that hold that up, for example, like Google AdSense or anything that funds or facilitates these virtual habits are going to really be powerful, I think, during this next year and a half, during the final part of Uranus and Taurus. But by the time we hit Uranus and Gemini, I think it's going to begin to change in some way, or I think that it could have been kind of like a fad. So careful if you're relying too much on these constructs here. I mean, I see some people, Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini, that's the paradigm we're going to be in, you all, in 2026 and 7. There's going to be a lot of opportunity in the online business world and in the social media world, but it's going to be different. And there are going to be certain practices or certain elements of it that are identified to be debilitated or unwell based on what we go through over the next year and a half. So it would be important here to maybe not be super attached to it, or to also understand like what exactly the purpose of it is in your life. So whether you're like a creator or whether you are someone who just enjoys social media as a person, now would be a time to understand, what am I coming out of it with? Like, what is it actually giving me? What effect does it have on my mind? Also, if you're in a business context with social media, like you have an online business or you do social media as a business, what is it actually doing for you financially? There could be a lot of mania or a lot of collective kind of like difficulty around, like, for example, people who tried to monetize these Uranus and Taurus constructs, like coming out with it not having meant as much as they thought that it would, or maybe the purchasing power of what they get is not great. Maybe it's like a taxation issue, I don't know, but it might be difficult to really harvest much of a financial benefit from it at the end of the day, or the benefit that is harvested from it can kind of fall flat. So I'm reminding you all that also the point, I think, of social media is a certain like community construct, and I feel that the over monetization of it can be difficult, but also like it's a reality, I think, of the world that we live in. So like everything is kind of hard to parse. If you notice as I'm talking through this, it's like almost difficult to really move through it in a balanced way. Not impossible, but challenging to move through the path of these constructs without it having, I think, a damaging effect. But definitely possible, but it takes a lot of precision and it takes a lot of discipline, and it's going to take a lot of integrity, and sometimes like also saying no to certain contracts or saying no to certain payments as well, in order to like maintain certain respect quotients, but also to not get too addicted to it too, because sometimes the monetization of things makes things more dopaminergic, right? We have this sort of dopamine crisis also with Uranus and Taurus, and the very neurochemical effects of the consumption of this content on either side of it. So consider that during this time, and consider in the final part of this transit, like, what impact is all of this having on my entire life? Like, am I able to maybe bring more human elements into my life? Because Taurus, the sign of Taurus, is a very human sign. It's like the body. It's like the human experience. It's like eating and, food and even like romance or kinship or, the skin, right? Like it's like very human. So it's why it's debilitated with Uranus, because Uranus is not human. Uranus is like industrial. It's technology. It's very much AI and not human. So there's a dehumanization that can very easily happen during this time. And there would, at this point in the transit, and really all through the transit, there would have needed to be something that offset that, like more time in human spaces, or more time with friends, more time with kinship, or really healthy foods, okay? As that is also very important. That'll segue me a little bit into the health part of the video. Okay, so health, Uranus and Taurus, hormonal issues, hormonal disruption, food supply stuff. We don't need to go into that rabbit hole really here. But the point of Uranus and Taurus, the positive way that it could have helped was that it could have given you, it could have addressed some type of deficiency that you had. So like supplementing some kind of deficiency that you have in your body. It was a very wonderful transit to like get the blood work done, to get the data, right? The information about the status of certain things in your life. And then that could have also been shadowy for some people, as you might have had like a lot of blood work or a lot of tests in order to, and mystery illnesses were also at a high with this transit too, especially in the beginning of the transit. As the body was kind of reprogramming also through this transit, the neurological system was changed. And this also fed back into technology, and the role of technology in our daily lives is that changed the way our brains work. That's changing the way that our senses perceive things. So that has really fed into health as well. And the health of the nervous system, the health of the endocrine system, those two majorly, nervous system and endocrine system health, are things that we can really actually make good strides with in the final part of this transit. So like by this time we should kind of know, like through being very sensitive and in tune with our bodies, like what works for us and what doesn't, what living situations or what diets, what foods, what medications in some cases, medications, pharmaceutical stuff, very, very important part of this transit, which I'm not going to speak too much on in this video, but there would be something about the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, there would be something about the price of medicines, or not just the price of it, but like the role of it again in the life, kind of in the same way about the technology. So I definitely see a large influx of people who started maybe like daily medications or daily supplements, or some kind of, that's tying back into consumption as well, technology and consumption both compounding and reinforcing this kind of routine of, okay, I take this vitamin every day, or I take this prescription every day. And certainly I can't give an opinion on that, as that's different for everybody, and it's important to definitely talk with your own doctor and get a host of opinions about your health. But look at things like that. Look at the repetitive structure of consumption, like at a very physical level. So I eat this every day. I take this every day. Daily routines, more important than people realize. So we think of that with Virgo. We think of that with the 6th house. But with Uranus and Taurus, it's really brought it up strongly to look at as well, like majorly. And the sleep cycles as well with the nervous system. It's all kind of a feedback loop, though. Technology kind of antagonizes sleep, which antagonizes certain health, which feeds back into the need for certain vitamins or medications, which perpetuates certain imbalances. You guys see the feedback loop? It's the debilitation of Uranus and Taurus. And this exact feedback loop is what we can do a lot of work on in the final part of this transit. And how we can do work on it is we can just really accept our humanity, and we can really feel more alive and more present, rather than getting stuck in a kind of algorithmic consciousness or getting too dependent and reliant on stimulants. Okay, very powerful time for stimulants like caffeine, sugar, any type of stimulating element. I think that technology is a stimulant. So yeah, Uranus and Taurus, the stimulation of a consciousness that was more relaxed to begin with, is kind of the translation of what that transit means. It's like a consciousness that was maybe dormant or asleep is brought to attention and brought to a peak rather than a valley. So realizing that, are there other things that you should bring to a peak in your life? And perhaps some things that have been brought to a peak, should they be allowed to rest? That's what we're going to see by July of 2025, okay? We're going to see in July of 2025, when Uranus goes into Gemini for the first time before it retrogrades back, we're going to see, okay, I've got to let some things rest. Some things have been overdone. You might even see that by this point in time too. If you're a little bit psychic, or you're kind of ahead of the typical consciousness, it would already kind of be there, like, this is exhausting. This is too much energy. This takes too much to do this. This business is too much to keep up. We're going to see people closing down businesses, okay? Like between July 2025 and April 2026, a lot of things will close down. A lot of social media channels will start closing down. The landscape of business and social media as we know it will drastically change. And am I ready to segue into finance? Is there anything else I need to talk about health? Because I kind of naturally went into finance there. Just finally on health, it's all about that. It's about knowing what's been overused or what has been overkill and like letting that rest and like starting to exercise things that have been kind of atrophied. Okay, so like through sitting at a desk all day, like the back muscles and, you know, the shoulders might be underused, but like the hands, you know, right, with like the keyboard and the mouse could be overused. So like how can we change that? Just an example. But segueing into finance, stuff will start to go dormant. Okay. So yes, I think inflation maybe not might curb and go down throughout the ending part of this transit, but that's really a total question. I can't make a prediction one way or another. But there will be some element, even whether it's inflation or not, there will be some element that decreases and decrescendos. And there will be also things that we're used to having in abundance no longer there for us. So that one creator that you're used to like watching all the time may not be there, okay, or may be focusing on other things. So like that could be difficult for some people to like cope with too. Like there could also be new parameters put on to like internet browsing or something, and something that we're used to having is no longer allowed. And that could be important for some people to prepare for, as it could send some people over the edge. Okay, some people could be basically addicted to certain content forms or addicted to certain things on the internet, addicted to their current patterns. And we're going to see Uranus in Gemini and Jupiter in Cancer, even I think too, being a time of almost like rehab for some people as they start to heal their brains from this like serious like drug addiction level dopamine crisis. So that's just something that I want to prepare you all for, and it might be something to already begin understanding could be on the horizon. But yeah, back in the financial context of it all and the business context of it all, by the time we got Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus in 2023, it presented a very complicated dynamic, which was that sort of like stagnant energy, yet also stability, like trying to kind of like parse through like, okay, what is stability and what is stagnation? And what that caused for a lot of people is like kind of resentment maybe of the status quo, or resentment, yet acceptance of certain stable grids. And especially in the context of like social media, where things need to innovate all the time and things need to be fresh all of the time, I think we maybe have seen a stagnation of what social media is, or we've seen a stabilizing factor placed onto something that is inherently volatile. And that's creating a discomfort, okay, for everybody involved in the scenario. It's creating kind of like it's almost like the snake needing to shed its skin or something. It's like, this stability construct put on something that I don't even like want to experience anymore, or this like repetitive loop, or like I don't want to take this supplement anymore, but I have to, or I'm so tired of paying for this service that I don't actually like. It's like being an addict, like someone who hates smoking cigarettes but keeps like buying them and keeps partaking in the habit. It's a similar kind of energy actually in the financial business sector right now. People are through gritted teeth continuing along the status quo, which says to me that it's not going to uphold for very long. And at least we're going to see quite a different face, and also people like working differently. So like employees, people who actually do like real work, okay, people who fulfill these loops in a business context at every level. They're going to want to mix it up, okay? The sign of Taurus is forcing too much of a stability construct onto something that's not wanting to be stable and repetitive, which is Uranus. So at the end of this transit, they're going to start like either really diving down and trying to extract out of the business what they wanted from the beginning, whether that's like an effect on the world or money or, you know, whatever the purpose of their business is, they're going to try to like either get in there and get what they needed in the duration of the final part of this transit, or they're going to start really getting like crazy with it, and they're going to start doing different things. So like companies, for example, that are like known for, I don't know, companies that are known for giving some type of care product like soap or something, suddenly going into like the cannabis industry or something like that, or you know, like all of a sudden we have an entirely different vision of what we're doing. Or people who've been in like people who have been comedians all of a sudden wanting to like get into like politics or something, you know, just crazy, and it just can't ever be taken seriously because it's like they were a comedian. So it's not that they can't be a politician, but it's kind of like, this is a dynamic that we're going to really start seeing at the end of Uranus and Taurus, where people struggle to kind of like shake the previous expression. It's like, but that company always made soap. Why are they now in like the medical cannabis industry? Like, I don't understand what their aim is. Is it just, do they just want my money? They don't care about what I'm actually like putting into my body, do they? They just want to like sell me things. Or in another sense, like, okay, this comedian is like tired of hearing people laugh, and now they're ready to like, I don't know, control the military or something. Like, it's like insane stuff. And here's where you can actually see with like Uranus and Taurus, a breaking or like nervous breakdowns or things that just seem unwell. So careful about this in your own pursuits, because what we also have to like offset this message is like, I know that was a little bit of comedy on my part. Thank you for those of you who laughed. This channel is on Patreon, by the way. Anyway, okay. The other problem, you all, if I can keep my mind on one topic at a time. Venus is in Sagittarius right now. I'm a natal Venus in Sagittarius. It's always a good time. We have people who like actually understand what they want to do with their lives now. So like some people have been in this like stable construct, and they're like, I've done it. I've been this person, and now I'm ready to be someone entirely different. And that's not wrong. You know, that's like a soul level transformation. But we have to make sure that's what it is. And we have to make sure it's not some kind of incoherent coping mechanism, or that it's not some kind of also misplaced desperation. Okay. And how do we figure out what's what? Well, that's where we're going to have to start writing in the journal. That's where we're going to have to start doing shadow work. That's where we're also going to have to start integrating and processing our past. And because that's a part of Uranus and Taurus too. This is the Scorpio-Taurus axis. And I think that that's an important thing to remember and talk about in a new reflections video, is like, yes, it's Uranus and Taurus. It's all about the surface level stuff, like the things we're doing every day, our daily bread, the money, the love, all that stuff. But it's also about deep past wounds, contexts, and memories being reintegrated and reprocessed in a Uranian way. And that's actually, I think, the beauty of this transit. It's like that core wound that I have, or that trauma that I have. Well, now I have a like presence on social media that helps thousands of people integrate that. That's the beauty of this transit. Or I have now healed from it totally. And like, this used to really hold me down every day. I thought about my trauma every day. I couldn't get past it. But now I'm like finishing my degree because of the energy that's given me. Like, I'm getting chills right now. Like, that's what this transit can also do in a very positive way. Like quick, fast, positive soul transformations. And you see, that feeling does not elicit the feeling at all that I was talking about a second ago, where it's like, you know, the soap company now getting into the cannabis industry, or the comedian now going into politics. Like, that all feels very shallow and weird. But when it's done in this more scorpionic way, when it's done in this way that actually means something for your transformation as a person, that's when we're in power. And we should always, or we should also be able to see over these last 8 years since Uranus has been in Taurus, examples of both. So examples of both of those sides of the coin, where it's like, yeah, you know what? Me trying to make that change just in such a rush was kind of like desperate feeling, or it was kind of like a coping mechanism, wasn't it? Compared to, I totally processed and reintegrated that past trauma and that pain, and I kind of got anointed almost to make a change that felt like such a positive expression of who I actually am. And you feel it. You feel it when you're on either side of that. And going forward in this transit now, finishing the last year and a half of this transit, it's going to be really important to be making choices every day. So like not the huge choices, those will come, but like the small choices that are like reaffirming the healthy side of this coin about positive soul transformation and about also, the total overcoming or total really like, what's the right word? Sublimation, I would almost say, of certain things that really held us back before. And I mean, even the darkest, most difficult things can now be something that give to us now. And that's really like the beauty of this transit is, we used to just always be held back by it. We used to, because of our trauma or our pain, we were getting in our own way, as everyone does with trauma and pain. But now it's reprocessed, now it's reintegrated, and now our trauma or pain is a source of fuel, and it's operating as a supportive construct, almost like a 10x multiplier for certain results. And that is where we also have to see those results, and we have to make sure that we're not burning through those results. So to translate that would kind of be like, I always struggled with poverty, that's my core wound, and now I have a successful business, and I'm activating a positive soul transformation through bridging this gap. But like now I'm high on the supply of this business and I'm spending it all. So it's like not actually fixing the problem. Here's where we have to bridge both gaps. And we have to say, okay, I now am solving my poverty wound. I now have this business, and I'm also putting in structures, controls, and grids that are healthy, that actually lead to me having this chance, actually accomplishing at a material level what this entire wound to begin with was. So this is the final phase of Uranus and Taurus. And that would be the most empowering level of this transit here. And I encourage you all to journal and think about how you can work in that way through this last year and a half of this transit. But I would also remind you that most people are going to be in more of that kind of unconscious consumptive area, unconscious emotional projection, unconscious consumption, unconscious vampirism via technology. Okay, that's going to be very prevalent here because that's also echoed in the Pluto return, and it's a feedback loop with the sextile from Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So that's going to be something that we all can easily fall into if we're not mindful. And it's going to also be something that we probably see happening to other people. It's not a bad time for solitude. It's not a bad time for gaining strength through certain parameters that you've put into your life to, as I said, powerfully overcome things at a soul level. And on that note, everyone, I think that is where I want to conclude this video because I think that is the most important dialogue. Thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed to this YouTube channel. Do subscribe if you have not yet. That really helps my channel, and it's a great free way to support the channel by subscribing, by hitting the like button, by commenting or sharing this video on another social media platform. And if you did want to actually not just support this channel financially, but get a lot of premium content that is not available here on YouTube, such as monthly sign-by-sign forecasts, week-ahead forecasts called T-Chats, that is available with a free trial on Patreon, so you can try before you buy. It's the best of both worlds. I love in this time to be able to try something before you just, pay for it. So free trials are available on Patreon. You can cancel if you don't like it, but usually people end up wanting to stay. So come check it out, I think that the content that people get is quite worth more perhaps even than the subscription price, but I think it's important to make things affordable too. So have a wonderful, wonderful time of this transit. Check the description box below, and I will see you all next week for a live premiere every Friday. Bye.